Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mark Groves podcast, Best of Personal Growth and Overcoming Limited Beliefs. Let's dive into the idea of personal growth because as someone who has been pretty obsessed with becoming my best self, it can be a trap. And the trap of personal growth can be that we're constantly in the pursuit of more knowledge, but not becoming the knowledge we're getting. We could tell other people we're learning all these things, but are we doing these things? That can be challenging because what brings you into the personal growth space, what brings you into the space of wanting to learn about you and becoming a better version of you, is generally the idea that there's something wrong with you that needs to be resolved. But what happens when you orient to growth from that perspective is that there's something you need to fix. It reinforces the belief, often from childhood, that we are broken. Like if something needs to be fixed, then that infers that something is broken. I want to invite, as you're listening to this episode of the Best of from 2024, in this space of shattering limiting beliefs and like really becoming all that we could be and fully embracing our potential. Like who doesn't want more of that? That you're able to reorient to the reason that you are interested in change is because you're interested in taking up more space. You're interested in expanding. Instead of fixing, you're expanding. So you're actually, the things that you learn about yourself that need to be resolved, that need to be changed, that you're not saying, oh, this is another piece of evidence of the deficit of who I am or the problem of me. No, it's another opportunity for you to fully step into who you are. You know, there's an idea that when you have limiting beliefs, they're right, because the very choices we make through the design of the limiting belief is that the limiting belief is proven true. And that's the nature of being a human being, that we will believe things that keep us safe, right? So I take the limiting belief that I can never do what I love. Of course, that's going to protect me from having to be vulnerable and rejected and experience abandonment, which is something I likely haven't fully processed from my childhood or from when I was young or from adulthood even. That I haven't actually fully sat in that the rejection and abandonment of who I am did not mean death. Although it can mean death, but it didn't because I'm here and I'm listening to this and I'm watching this. So let's dive into some of the best wisdom of 2024 and oh man, the teachers we got. Before we get into that, please like this video, get it into more people's feed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos and also the notification button so you get told, hey, new video from Mark. Because we got another best of coming down the pipe and then 2025, we're going to a whole new level. Change is a coming, so let's go. And speaking of change, this is about how do you change, and I can't wait to change alongside you, to become all of ourselves alongside you. So without further ado, let's go.
With struggle comes strength, right? With challenge comes change. So I want to remind everyone that's listening, if you're struggling in an area and you're going through a storm, some things we can only learn in a storm. Right. And some storms come and they clear our path. But either way, you know, we hear a lot about post-traumatic stress. We don't hear a lot about the other side, post-traumatic growth. And I didn't invent this term, but this is, and I'm sure some of your listeners can identify with this. I'd be curious, they could post it on social and tag us, but it's where you come out of, you went through adversity, you wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but you wouldn't change what happened because of it, you found something. I don't know what it may be, a mission, you found a trait, you developed a strength, you got clarity on a value or purpose or something. And there's growth that happened through, you know, that challenge. And so, yeah, I mean, there was a large part of my childhood where I wish I didn't have that fall, but yeah, now I wouldn't change anything because it allowed us to, you know, to do the work that we do today.
Well, I think about how many people have the self-belief of some sort of limitation about their mind or who they are or their learning disability or whatever it might be, that you, through walking that path and then discovering the limitless possibilities of the brain, have liberated through that. And for people listening to this or watching this, that will be liberated through the experience of like, your story is, they can't say I can't because you did. So it's like it's disproven. So like the labels that we hold for ourselves about our brain. Like, is that what you confront most often with someone's self-perception and their capabilities with their mind?
I feel like it falls in one of three categories or a combination of three. So if people feel limited, then you control the controllables. And so when I'm coaching individuals and I'm listening for what's holding them back, and it's always one of three things. And so I call it the limitless model. If people imagine a Venn diagram, three intersecting circles that overlap, kind of like Mickey Mouse, two ears and a face, right? The three M's that really will help you become more limitless in terms of in a relationship, in your health and wellness, in your income, your impact, your happiness, your reading speed, whatever it is. Three M's, and it's your mindset, your motivation, and the methods. So you can imagine mindset is one of the ears, motivation is one of the ears, and the faces are the methods. Now, most people want to jump to how, which are the methodologies. How do you invest? How do you start a business? How do you lose weight? How do you have fulfilling relationships? How do you read faster? How do you remember names? How do you learn a language? Whatever. But I also realized before I turned in Limitless, the book is, one of the top brain optimization accelerated learning books. We sold over 1 million copies the first couple of years. We
So
donate all
awesome.
thank you. We donate all the, I say that though, because we donate all the proceeds to charity. We've built schools in Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya, for nonprofits, for villages that didn't have schools, and clean water and medicine. And then also, for Alzheimer's research, for women. Women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men. And I'm very passionate about this because when I was going through my learning challenges at 5, 6, 7, I lost my grandmother, who was like my hero. She took care of me and she passed of Alzheimer's when I was 7. Yet women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's. And yet most of the research is done on men and treatment on men. So we fund a lot of that, that research because we're very excited, about the potential I'm very optimistic, in terms of brain aging and what we could do. But going back to this, when I was writing the book, I was about to hit send to my publisher, and I asked myself a question. I was like, "Will 100% of the people who read this book, get the results they're hoping for?" And my honest answer was no, because a lot of people, because the book was all in methodology. It was like a textbook on how to focus and how to change your habits and how to memorize everything. But I realized a lot of people know what to do, but they don't do what they know. And why don't they do what they know? It's either
Yeah.
their mindset or their motivation. So if you think about like a box, we'll make this like a masterclass for everybody because this is your 400th episode. And I really want to pour into everybody. If you feel like you're stuck in a box, so if Limitless is about advancing and progressing, the opposite is just being stuck. So where do you feel like you're stuck in a box? And I really want people to think about this. You don't have to share it, but where are you not making progress in your life? Is it in your relationship? Is it in your health? Is it your energy levels? Is it your reading speed? Maybe you feel limited. You can't read any faster or remember anymore, right? Or your income. That box by definition is three-dimensional, right? And the three forces that contain that box are the same three forces that will liberate you out of that container. And that those three dimensions are mindset, motivation, and methods. So to answer your question, mindset, if we're going to address first, are the set of assumptions and attitudes you have about something. So you can learn a great method on making money, right? But if your mindset is money is the root of all evil, money doesn't grow on trees, in order to make money, you have to hurt people, that's your set of assumptions, your attitudes about money, you're still
Yeah.
going to be stuck in that box, even if you know what to do with the methods, right? And so even
Yeah.
at events that I was mentioning before I do these demos and I teach, people invariably, Mark, pull me aside afterwards or before I go on stage and say, "Jim, I'm so glad you're here as a memory coach. I'm just too old. I'm really stupid. I have a horrible memory." And I always say the same thing, and I'll say it to everyone listening. Stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limits, they're yours, right? Your brain is this incredible supercomputer. Your beliefs, your self-talk, your thoughts, that's the program it's going to run. So if you say to yourself, "I'm not good at remembering people's names," you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to, right? And your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk, right? This whole like Henry
Jeez.
Ford, if you believe you can or believe you can, either way, you're right. And I just think that, and that's not to say you have a negative thought and it ruins your life any more than eating a donut will ruin your life. But if you eat that donut 30 times a day, every single day, there's going to be a consequence, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with those negative thoughts, and so something simple to do. If you find yourself saying, I don't have a great memory, you have the awareness that you're saying it, and then just add a little pivot at the end, like add a little word like yet at the end. I don't have a great memory yet. It just opens up the possibility and the potential, right? Because the words that we have, that we say to ourselves, has an effect on our nervous system. So that's the mindset. And certainly people do have beliefs that they're too old, they're not smart enough. And what I know is there's no such thing as a good or bad memory or a good or bad brain. There's a trained brain and an untrained brain. There's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and an untrained memory. And unfortunately, in most school systems, they don't train you. Like going to your kid or teammate or your spouse say, study this, focus. This is important, focus. That's like going to somebody saying, play the ukulele, who's never had any class or training on how to play the ukulele, right? It's just assume we know how to be able to do those things. And but even when it comes to reading and reading faster, if it's a skill that you learn, because no one was born with the ability to read, when was the last time people took a class called reading? How old were you? 6?
I never, right? Like never.
Yeah. So the difficulty and demand has increased a lot, but fundamentally we're still learning it like this last time we were taught. We haven't upgraded those skills. And so, mindset is a big deal. And, how we get over it is like there are a number of ways of reframing those beliefs. And there's a lot of tools and EMDR and tapping and hypnosis. For me, I like to get people doing things they never thought they could do. So if I could teach somebody how to memorize the periodic table or count to 10 in Japanese or memorize a grocery list forwards and backwards very quickly, then it's like, oh, what else can I do if I could do that? And then the last M besides mindset and methods is you can have a limitless methods. You've upgraded your skills to do the things you want to do, and a mindset that says it's possible, I can do it, I deserve it, right?
Yeah.
But you might not be the second M, which is motivation. You might not be motivated to get out of that box. You might not be motivated to lose that weight or to be in that relationship or to make that money or to read faster, right? So motivation is a key. So we break out the book into 4 M's. The section on mindset, mastering your mind, section on really the strategies for overcoming procrastination, which motivation, and then all the methodologies on how to focus, read faster, and so on. And then the last one in the new updated versions on momentum, how to use these 3 forces to accelerate and, have less friction in your life and more velocity. But motivation is interesting because, everyone knows the methods. They know they should meditate or journal or work out or eat the best brain foods ever or prioritize their sleep. But if they're not doing it, if they're self-sabotaging, then it's a mindset issue. They don't believe they deserve it, or they're not capable of doing it. Or if they're procrastinating, that's a motivation issue. And we have a simple formula we talk about, 3 steps for limitless motivation, how to get yourself or somebody else to do the things that they need to do.
So does the memory live in the brain or the nervous system?
Yes.
Both?
All of the above.
Really?
It's wild too, because if we talk, people who talk about inner child and parts work don't necessarily have the somatic nervous system training. And the people with the somatic nervous system training aren't always trained in parts work. But your inner child has a different somatic experience of the world. So how your physiology experiences the world will change moment to moment depending on which part is dominant. IFS is internal family systems. Thank you, Inside Out 2 screenwriters, for normalizing multiplicity.
And they have a new one that just came out. I haven't watched it. Is it good?
It's so good.
I heard it's like even better than the first.
It's so like
better.
They did it well. Like they talked to some therapists who have this training. It is excellently done.
That's cool. The first one I always found the mopey little.
It was sad.
Was annoying, right? Yeah.
Big bunk.
Yeah. Oh my God, my life is so bad.
Sadness. No, this one's great.
Which is like obviously relevant. I just was like, I get annoyed by that.
By sadness?
Yeah, I get annoyed by sadness. The preventative movement of sadness. I think it's because I didn't know the value of it when I first watched that. But I also can see how people get stuck in that victimized space and how it's like, man, just walk through the door, just go. But of course, it's not insert your book, The Science of Stuck, and then it contextualizes it. So when someone's in a conflict and let's say a romantic partner, because that's probably where we're going to see it the most once we're out of our childhood, is that what you're talking about, how we can, the nervous system, the memory, the experience of the child, when we get triggered, that's the activation of the part?
That's the activation. But what we don't talk about enough is that we talk about attachment. Attachment is so trendy right now. Like I've seen merch, anxious avoidant, and I'm disorganized. But every complex system is made of multiple parts. Like your body, you have one body, but every part, cell, organ, and tissue has a different need, has a different expression, has a different makeup. When you're in a relationship, it's not two people, it's like 30. And so if I'm getting triggered by my partner, it's
shit. Things got complicated.
It's a big crew. It is a crew. Like 2 people in bed or like 30 people in bed, which is why I like separate bedrooms.
So it's like an orgy.
Big time.
But kind of.
You took it there. And yes.
I had to.
Yes.
I had 30 people in bed. I mean, that's a lot of organization.
It is, but it makes sense because in conflict, everyone knows the feeling of you are no longer my partner. You are my enemy and I will destroy you and everything you stand for. It's like, that's because another part of you is taken over, largely a fight flight part. But when we understand that we're multiply oriented in our personalities, conflict is easier because I don't need to defend my position to the death. It's like part of me has this feeling. Oh, part of me has that feeling. And we all use the language. Part of me knows I should go to the gym and not smoke meth. And then this other part of me this is me sitting in a really gross bathroom with a broken light bulb in my hands. It's like we all are so disconnected from our inherent multiplicity, which is why this very black and white thinking has largely, I think, pervaded.
I think for people who haven't listened to the first episode and maybe don't have a background on what brought you here to like being so fascinated by, for example, like functional freeze, being so fascinated by parts, and being able to say, that's me. I was in a dirty bathroom with a broken light bulb. Okay, past Britt, walk us back the path that led you to be so fascinated and so good at translating all those experiences and the experiences that people have and how to move through where we might feel like it's inevitable. How will I ever be different? How will I ever change when it seems so insurmountable? It
seemed so insurmountable to me because I didn't have some very basic information. Like it's horrifying to me now as a licensed clinician, how we are inundated with information, not all of which is accurate, not all of which is helpful. So I grew up in just an absolute chaotic environment. Boundaries were not a word. Like sense of self, feelings. The only feelings that were really allowed were anger and anxiety. Like those were fine. But there was no discussion of here's how to human, here's how bodies change, here's how minds change. And a lot of trauma, a lot of childhood trauma shenanigans. And so when I hit puberty and then into college and after, I got into crazy making relationships, domestic violence situations, drug addiction, eating disorders, OCD. Like my list of DSM diagnoses was not short.
You were like playing whack-a-mole with or collecting like
turn the page. This is my collection of diagnoses. Wow. But what I didn't know then was all of that was trauma because no one used that word. I didn't even hear that word until I was almost 30. Like a therapist said to me, like, you understand that you've got some trauma. I'm like, no, I don't. I was never in a war. I was never in these situations and I didn't understand any of it. So I'm like, F this. I didn't become a therapist to be helpful to people. I'm not that altruistic. It was like, I need to understand why I can't human. Like, why is my brain not braining like all these normal people that seem to go to sleep, wake up, eat food, and like do life? I did not get it. And in learning it, I'm like, oh, this stuff is not that complicated. Life is complicated.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we need to know to make sense of the insanity, like people are not insane, but systems are, is not that complicated. So my passion is like, let's demystify and de-academic, blah, 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 all of this shit so we can make it make sense so we can feel better and do things better for our lives.
What are some rituals that you think are non-negotiable for people who do want to step and stay in purpose and be in integrity?
Yeah, good. I like that question because I don't think the answer will be exactly maybe what everyone would think, but I think it's hard to treat people at a level higher than what we treat ourselves. So I think that just simply like taking time for yourself with fitness and working out is a really positive thing to do for yourself. It's it's somewhat selfish, right? Because you're doing something alone, but it's easier to serve from that full cup, when you treat yourself like that. You also have a lot more tolerance for other people when they're doing things that they need to do to treat themselves well. I think that food falls under that same category. I think that, putting some effort into the quality of it. I'm a total believer in like taking care of your body now so that you don't have to do as much later. But I think it's a form of self-respect to take care of yourself and eat well and, drink water and, do really healthy things. I also think it's equally healthy to do certain things that might not be perceived as being as healthy, whether it's like drinking wine or having a meal that feels like a little bit more lavish or extravagant or less healthy, because there's a mental health aspect to it. Mm-hmm. Like if you can relax and if you can enjoy and you laugh more and like you're just in the moment and you're flowing with a group of people and, like there's definitely a mental health aspect for it. But I also think that, the power of prayer is really big. It's been quite a while now that I've been pretty consistent about, before I go to sleep, I say all the things that I'm really grateful for and then ask for the things that I want. And a lot of times it's a laundry list of people that I want to be healthy. And some other things. Like I'm not afraid to ask for anything. But I think that having that prayer, or it could be meditation. I just think prayer is a little bit more direct about having actual gratitude and knowing what you want. Knowing what you want isn't that easy.
No.
Right? Like I even sit down, like I was talking about earlier, the manifestation technique that Joe Dispenza taught. I have to sit here and think, like, what is it that I want? It's like, it's not always that easy to answer it. I mean, you could say like, oh, I want a yacht or a jet or like a new car, or I don't know, but like some of that doesn't even feel like actually what you want.
Right.
Like, what do I want? So like to like lay your head down and ask for certain things, I think is like really important to just stay aware of what the hell it is that you actually want in life. I think that's another one that's really powerful and important and that's pretty non-negotiable, but it doesn't take it. I mean, it's just for me. Nobody knows when I'm doing it, right? I mean, I think those are some just like core tenets, like take care of your body and take care of your mind, be grateful, and know what you want. That's pretty simple. Let's not make it overwhelming, right? Let's not make it overwhelming with like, I do 90 minutes of this and then I do that and then I make sure and every quarter and I do that. It's like, and I also think that, if we're talking about some of the most powerful things that I've done in my life that have given me a lot of really interesting insight and direction, the journeys, whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin or things like that, like, I think being honest about it, like when it calls you, I think can be really powerful. I would never tell anyone to go do it unless it called them.
Are you feeling stuck? Whether it's just trying to figure out who you are and what you actually want from life, or you're healing from a breakup, or maybe you're trying to find your person in the dating landscape, or you're trying to get clarity if your person is actually your person, the Create the Love community is for you. In the community, you'll find other people who are navigating similar experiences, who have high standards and are going to hold you accountable to these new high standards that you're creating. Plus, you get access to a ton of valuable material, like monthly content that's themed and you get to work on through calls with me in your community. You get fun monthly challenges that we do as a group to help us grow together. And you also get access to a library of my content that you can search by topic, as well as access to all my Create the Love courses, which are no longer available for sale outside of my community. So you get all of this in a beautifully packaged community experience that is easy to navigate. If this sounds like something you want to be part of, go to markgroves.com/community and join us. I can't wait to see you there. I used to drink a lot in college, but every Sunday I would, probably more than once a week, but definitely every Sunday I'd go have a spicy chicken combo from Wendy's with a side of not cheese sauce, And I look back and I'm like, I've asked my body to metabolize a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think about how resilient it is, but it's only so resilient. Just like I think our psyches, like we're resilient emotionally till we're not. Just like our nervous system, we have a certain capacity for bypassing our capacity. But eventually we have a psychotic break. We have a breakdown. We have a dark night of the soul. We have our body. It doesn't let us down because that's even the wrong language. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, Like, I let you do this for a little while, but now I'm not going to let you. What were some of the most profound things you learned in creating Heal and writing it too?
Oh gosh. I'm a big visual person, and I think Joe Dispenza was the one that reminded us of this as he healed his spine. It's like, you can't just use your mind to, and this is part of this like beautiful system that we have to operate within as a human. But the mind is very powerful. But again, when you're visualizing, you're using the conscious mind, which is that only 5% of power. You really have to get the mind and the heart in coherence. The heart, you've got to feel with your, we feel like feeling can come from all over the body, the gut, the heart. But if you combine that elevated emotion with the visualization, I mean, the mind or the body, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you're imagining the past when so-and-so, beat the shit out of you, and you're like, something triggers you and you're there, you're having those feelings, you're visualizing it in your mind's eye and your memory, and your nervous system is reacting as if you were back there. So it's not happening in the moment. You're an adult, it's 40 years later, and you're completely safe right here, but your mind is tricking your brain into thinking, like, to release cortisol and have that same nervous system reaction. So if we can take that system and harness it for good, there's so much that we can do when it comes to healing, when it comes to creating life, because again, all the separation is an illusion. So what we can apply to the physical body, we can also apply to creating in our life. And it's just energy and frequency and information we're sending out into the field. But I'm just like, our brains are amazing. Our minds are amazing. If we can learn how to get our hearts and minds in coherent state and consciously create, like, infinite possibility.
Why do you think we're resistant to that possibility?
It gives us a lot of power and accountability, responsibility. You know what I mean? We want someone to do it for us. It's so easy to be a victim and give our power away, and we're just conditioned as society that, like, we didn't go to medical school, so we don't have the knowledge, and the body's so complex. Like, they don't have the knowledge either. Like, the way we're training our doctors, like, there's so much more on a quantum level, and just, it's such a complex system. So we just give our power away to someone who has more education, the degree, without the understanding and awareness that our education system of some of these medical professionals are funded by, let's say, pharmaceutical companies. And so just even the way they're trained in sick care management, not actually about what are the conditions that create health and vitality in the body. So we're giving our power away without the full story.
What do you think it is, and what is the greatest challenge that you see for fathers today?
Well, I'm a dad of 3, right? I have 3. They're 8, 5, and 2. And it's hard not to draw on my experience with them. And this, again, this isn't technical language, but I mean it, and I really believe it, is the way that things have been, or at least the way that things were when I was raised, that, my time was primarily with my mom, and I was connected to her body, and I was connected to her voice, and I was connected to her love, and the natural flow of full love and connection and everything was all the way there, And I had an experience once where I was had like a craniosacral session, but I actually kind of relived my birth moment. Oh, wow. Like, was back in the womb, and what happened in that session is I came out of the woods, and I came out of my mom, and the first thing I saw was my dad's face with a mask and his glasses, and like, my first feeling was just like overjoyed love, like, fuck yeah, you're here, like, fuck yeah. And now overlaying this with my children, like their capacity love for both my wife and I, for Elise and I, is, maybe there's differences or whatever, but it's full, right? That when the connection to give and receive, that primal connection and love to dad is open. It's so insanely powerful. It's reoriented my whole life, right? And I've been pursuing this. I've been pursuing love and connection my whole life, but it's reoriented my whole life. And now I look back and I think about what it does to someone when that is corked, when it's felt but not expressed, when it's felt but not embodied, when that love exists and isn't met. Is I guess I would reference Bell Hooks, who wrote what I think one of the most important books for men, called The Will to Change. The Will to Change, yeah. I think she spells it out perfectly with absolute clarity about the wounding that happens to boys. And in the context of father, it's primordial. It is, we are viscerally, primally programmed to model after this human. And it's just so confusing, I think, on a soul level when there's blockers to that,
when there's a disconnection from a behavioral sense, but also, you mean also like a literal disconnection, like maybe he's not around, maybe he's completely emotionally unavailable. Maybe he, is actually just not able to lead us in any way. Like, like, what do you notice when you're working with fathers who are preparing, or fathers who are in it? Like, is that absence just because it's never been modeled for them? So here we are, like, with no fucking map on how to do this. And we're like, well, shit, now my son needs something from me that I don't know how to access. So my son's leading me or inspiring me to go to that.
Yes. What I see is, here's the good news. I'll start with good news, is that the wiring, the connection points, the capacity for this embodiment and connection and flow of love and emotions and energy, it is, I truly believe it is simply our human baseline. It's our human nature. It's innate, regardless of gender, or it is a fundamentally human quality to have that. And the good news is that for men, it's frighteningly close to the surface. It's like what I have done hundreds, if not thousands of times now, in a period of as little as 15 to 30 minutes, to help men ease through or relax through their habitual closures, their habitual set points, their habitual ways of being. It's right there. It's right there. And so you asked, why fatherhood? Why bringing it to here? I feel, 2 points. The first is just that there just isn't anything that naturally kind of wedges your heart open in the same way that becoming a parent does. Right? Mm-hmm. It's at least possible. Right? I'm sure there's cases, but the simple human physiological connection and love is a wake-up call to so many men, because it's like, oh, okay, like this is right. this is right. This is insane and just here now, right?
You can't run from that one, or you could try.
Right. So we get smacked with a love that maybe we have always been dreaming of, right? So I've completely lost my second point. That was one point, was why fatherhood is because of that. And the other, I got my second point now, is because fatherhood offers a situation of accountability that almost nothing else in life that I can see matches, right? Because this, and right now we're focusing on the heart connection, the love, the emotional connection, that part of it, which is only one part of it. But there's so much else that goes into fatherhood. But when we become dads, we now have this constant feedback loop of our presence in a way that, you know, partnership can do. Other things can give you that as well. It's not solely relegated to fatherhood. But what I hear from dads is there's never been a more compelling or salient reason to lean in, right? To lean inside and to do whatever it takes. So there's this really wonderful force function, I think, that happens. I'm going to add a third point here too, just sort of why is, you know, I've done a lot of, you could call it ceremonial work in my life. And, you know, some in sort of a Buddhist tradition, some in shamanic traditions, and some in just sort of the more modern men's work traditions that I've been a part of. And I got to fatherhood, and part of me was like, oh, we were just mimicking this. We were just playing at this ceremony, the ceremony of life coming, you know, through the body and onto the planet. Right. And I was just like, all right, this is the big leagues. This is what I've been training for.